You wake up at 4:47 a.m., not because of an alarm, because your body has learned over 11 years that the paddock does not wait for anyone. Not for sleep, not for grief, not for you. Somewhere in a garage 6,000 miles away, a car with your fingerprints on it, literally your fingerprints, because you were the one who torqued that wheel nut at 2 a.m. last night, is about to go faster than most people will ever move in their entire lives. And you won't even be watching from the pit wall. You'll be watching from a laundry room in Woking, holding a phone with 4% battery, because that's where rank 1 starts, not on the podium, not in the headlines, in the laundry room of your own life, wondering if you'll ever matter to the sport you die for. This is what it actually feels like to live every rank of a Formula One team, not the highlight reel. The real thing, from the bottom of the paddock to the very top of it, and everything it costs you in between. Here's what nobody tells you when you fall in love with this sport as a kid, watching cars scream past a barrier at 200 miles an hour. Formula One isn't one job, it's 1,000 invisible jobs stacked on top of each other, and you don't choose which one you get, it chooses you. You could be the tire engineer who never appears on camera but decides, with a single data point, whether a driver wins or crashes on lap 43. You could be the strategist screaming box, box, box into a headset while 40 million people watch your worst case scenario play out in real time. You could be the mechanic who hasn't seen his daughter's face in 3 months because the calendar has 24 races on it now instead of 16. Or you could be the one at the very top, the team principal, the person everyone blames when it goes wrong and almost nobody thanks when it goes right. What does it actually feel like to climb that ladder? Not to watch it on a documentary with dramatic music laid over the top. To live it, rung by rung, rank by rank. Let's go find out. Picture your life divided into 5 ranks. Each one is a version of you. Each one thinks the version above it has it figured out. None of them do. Rank 1, you're a junior mechanic, 23 years old. You got here because you were the fastest wheel gun operator in a regional junior series, and someone from the factory noticed. You thought that would feel like arriving. It doesn't. It feels like being handed a torque wrench and told that if you get this wrong, someone could die at 200 miles an hour, and then being told to hurry up because the truck leaves in 6 minutes. Rank 2, you're a race engineer. You've spent 7 years learning to read a driver's voice like sheet music, learning that when he says, "the car's fine" in that particular flat tone, the car is absolutely not fine. Your job is translation. You take chaos moving at impossible speed and turn it into decisions a human being can make in under a second. Rank 3, you're the head of strategy. You don't touch the car. You don't even really watch the race. Not the way fans do. You watch numbers, tire degradation curves, fuel deltas, weather radar refreshing every 90 seconds. You are the person who decides from a windowless room whether history is made or squandered. Rank 4, you're the sporting director. You stand behind the strategist now, not because you don't trust them, but because you've learned that the loneliest job in this sport is making the final call when the strategist's model and your gut disagree. Rank 5, you're the team principal. You built this, or you inherited it and are terrified of being the one who breaks it. Either way, it's yours now, all of it. The wins are the team's. The losses are yours alone. 5 ranks, 5 different definitions of pressure. Let's live through them one at a time. Rank 1, Year 1, the garage floor. You learn the sound of the sport before you learn anything else. Not the engine. Everyone thinks it's the engine, but the click of a wheel gun seating correctly. Miss that click by half a second during a pit stop, and you've just cost your driver a position, or a podium, or in the worst seasons, a championship. You practice pit stops in an empty garage at 11 p.m. while the rest of the world sleeps. 2 seconds, then 2.1, then 1.9. You are chasing tenths of a second the way other people chase promotions, except the stopwatch doesn't care how tired you are. Nobody outside this garage will ever know your name. You've made peace with that faster than you expected to. There's something almost peaceful about being invisible in a sport built entirely on visibility. You get to fail in private and improve in private and slowly, quietly become essential. Then, 18 months in, they move you to tires and everything changes. Rank 2, the headset. You're a race engineer now. And the first thing you learn is that your driver doesn't actually want you to fix his problems. He wants you to understand them faster than he can articulate them. There's a particular kind of intimacy in this job that people underestimate. You know, this driver's sleep patterns. You know when his voice changes because of the car, and when it changes because his personal life is falling apart 3,000 miles away, and he's bringing it into the cockpit anyway. You are part engineer, part translator, part therapist, and you have about 400 milliseconds to decide which one the moment calls for. The data pours in: tire temperatures, brake bias, energy deployment, and somewhere in that river of numbers, you have to find the one sentence that will calm a human being traveling at 200 miles an hour toward a wall. You get good at this, good enough that people notice. Rank 3, the strategy room. Here's the part nobody prepares you for. The higher you climb, the less control you actually have over the thing you love most, which is the race itself. As head of strategy, you don't feel the car anymore. You feel the shape of the race. The pit windows opening and closing like breathing. The tire cliffs approaching like a tide you can see coming but can't stop. Your currency isn't reflexes anymore. It's probability. You are constantly asking one brutal question. Given everything I know right now, what is the version of this race that hurts us the least? Some days that question has a clean answer. Most days it doesn't. Rank 4, behind the strategist's chair. As sporting director, you've stopped being the person who makes the calculations and become the person who has to trust them or override them. This is a different kind of terror entirely. You've spent your whole career learning to trust data, and now your job is knowing the rare moments when the data is lying to you. Rank 5, the top. And then, one day, impossibly, you're the one they turn to when there's no one left to ask. The climb up these 5 ranks doesn't feel like a staircase. It feels like each rung removes a piece of the certainty you had on the rung before it. The mechanic knows exactly what good looks like: a clean stop, a fast lap time. The team principal rarely gets that clarity. Good at the top is often just less bad than it could have been, but nobody warns you about the thing that actually breaks people in this sport. It isn't the workload, it's the silence between the people who are supposed to be a team. You're the race engineer now, 3 seasons in, and your driver has started going around you, straight to the team principal, straight to the sporting director. Because last race, your strategy call cost him a podium, and even though the data was right, even though 100 simulations out of 100 said it was right, he doesn't care about 100 simulations. He cares about the one race that actually happened. Trust in this sport isn't built on being right. It's built on being right at the moment someone needs you to be. And the first time you're wrong at the wrong moment, something changes in the garage that no debrief can fully repair. This is the conflict nobody puts in the documentaries. It's not you against a rival team. It's you against the 20 people standing 3 feet away from you, all of whom are exhausted, all of whom are terrified of failing publicly, all of whom occasionally need someone to blame that isn't themselves. You learn to carry criticism differently, depending on your rank. As a mechanic, criticism is loud and immediate. A shout across the garage, gone in a minute. As an engineer, it's quieter and colder. A driver's silence on the radio that says more than words could. As a strategist, it's delayed and devastating. It arrives hours later in a debrief room, dressed up as a question. Talk me through the thinking there. And at the top, as team principal, criticism doesn't arrive at all anymore. Not directly. It arrives as headlines, as sponsors quietly asking about team stability, as a driver's manager calling to explore options. You're no longer being criticized by people. You're being criticized by a narrative, and narratives don't take feedback. They just grow. Then comes the season everything you've built gets tested at once. It's lap 34 of the penultimate race of the championship. Your driver, the one you've engineered for 3 years, the one whose voice you know better than your own family's, is running second on old tires with a title fight balanced on a single strategic decision. The strategist says, stay out. The tire model says the degradation cliff is still 11 laps away. The gut of every engineer standing in that garage says something else entirely because gut feeling doesn't run on the same clock as a spreadsheet. The sporting director looks at the team principal. The team principal looks at nobody because there's nobody left above them to look at. This is the loneliness at the top of the ladder that nobody tells you about when you're 23 years old, learning to click a wheel gun correctly in an empty garage. Every rank below has someone to check with. The top rank has only the decision itself. 11 seconds. That's how long they have to decide before the pit window closes for good. 9 seconds. The radio crackles. The driver's voice, the one you know better than your own family's, says 4 words that will define the next 3 years of this team's history one way or another. I trust you. Call it. And there it is. The entire structure of the sport distilled into one sentence. Every rank, every rung of that ladder exists to make this single moment possible. A human being at 200 miles an hour, trusting a decision made by people he cannot see, based on a system built by hundreds of hands he will never shake. 4 seconds left in the window. The team principal makes the call. Box. Not because the model was wrong, because 11 years of paddock instinct, the same instinct that once told a 23-year-old mechanic exactly when a wheel gun's click sounded off, said that this was not a race that would be won by the numbers. It would be won by nerve. The pit crew, the same rank 1 mechanics who once practiced stops alone at 11 p.m. chasing tenths of a second, execute the fastest stop of their careers, 1.9 seconds, clean, perfect. The kind of stop that doesn't make headlines, but decides them. The car rejoins in third, fresh tires, 6 laps to make up the gap. And for 6 laps, nobody in that garage breathes normally. Not the mechanic checking the monitor with grease still under his fingernails. Not the engineer whose voice has gone quiet on the radio because there's nothing left to say. Not the strategist watching the gap close by tenths, second by second, the same tenths that once felt abstract and now feel like the only thing in the universe that matters. Not the team principal, standing at the back of the garage, hands in pockets, wearing the specific stillness of someone who has already made the only decision they were capable of making, and now has to live in the space after it. Lap 40. The gap is 0.8 seconds. Lap 41. 0.3 seconds. Lap 42, the final lap. The cars cross the line so close together that for 4 full seconds, nobody in that garage, not one single person, across all 5 ranks, from the newest mechanic to the team principal himself, knows who has won. They won. By 9/100ths of a second, a gap smaller than the time it takes to blink. But here's the truth about that moment that the broadcast never quite captures. The celebration doesn't look like you'd expect from any single rank. It looks like all 5 ranks colliding into each other at once. The mechanic who barely slept in 3 months is screaming with his arms around a stranger from the tire department. The engineer who spent 3 years learning to read a driver's silence is crying quietly into his headset because relief, it turns out, sounds a lot like grief when it finally arrives. The strategist is just sitting there, staring at a screen that no longer matters because the numbers already did their job and now the humans get to have their moment. The sporting director is already thinking about tomorrow because that job never really stops. And the team principal, the one who made the call, isn't celebrating at all, not yet. He's just standing there, watching all of them, feeling something no headline will ever quite capture. Not triumph exactly. Relief that the weight of every rank below him held. That's the part nobody tells you about the top of the ladder. It's not lonelier because you have less support. It's lonelier because you finally understand how much you were relying on everyone else the whole time, and you only fully feel that in the 4 seconds after it's over. Here's what 11 years across 5 ranks actually teaches you if you're paying attention. At rank 1, you think the sport is about speed. It isn't. It's about precision under pressure, the ability to be perfect in a moment that lasts less than 2 seconds over and over for a career. At rank 2, you think it's about data. It isn't. It's about translation, turning a human being's fear, confidence, exhaustion, and instinct into decisions a machine can't make for them. At rank 3, you think it's about probability. It isn't. It's about humility, knowing that the model is only ever a map of the past, and the race is always happening in a future the model can't fully see. At rank 4, you think it's about trust. You're finally right. But you learn that trust has to be earned separately at every single rank, every single season, and it evaporates the moment you assume you've already earned it. And at rank 5, At the very top, you learn the hardest thing of all, that leadership in this sport was never about being the smartest person in the room. It was about being the person willing to carry a decision that 200 other people made possible, and to carry it alone in public, whether it goes right or catastrophically wrong. Every rank thinks the rank above it has more control. None of them do. Control was never the currency of this sport. Trust was. It always was. So the next time you watch a car cross a finish line at 200 miles an hour, understand what you're actually looking at. You're not watching one driver. You're watching the final, visible half second of a decision built by a 23-year-old mechanic's aching hands at midnight 3 years earlier. Built by an engineer who learned to hear the difference between a driver who's fine and a driver who's drowning. Built by a strategist who turned chaos into a probability curve nobody outside that room will ever see. Built by a sporting director who trusted a model until the exact moment it mattered not to. And carried, finally, alone, by the one person standing at the back of the garage who didn't touch the car, didn't turn a single wheel nut, and yet is the only one who will be remembered if it all goes wrong. That's what it actually means to live every rank of a Formula One team. It's not the roar of the engine that defines this sport. It's the silence in the 4 seconds after the finish line, when nobody yet knows who won, and every single rank, every single person is holding their breath together, because in the end, that silence is the only moment in this entire sport where everyone, mechanic, engineer, strategist, director, and principal, is standing on exactly the same rank, equal, terrified, hoping, and human.